President, it's bottom of the 420th inning. So there's a crack in the bat. It's hit. He's running. He's rounding first. He's rounding second, completely ignoring third base. Oh, he's sliding head first into 69th base with Doug Mellard.
What up? Welcome to 69th Base. This is the podcast where I, your host, Doug Mellard, shred people like Skip Bayless, idiots that don't have any clue as to what they're talking about in the sports world and pretend that they do. I'm going to hold that jackass accountable for everything he says this past week. Got a very special family-centric holiday episode. I'm recording from my parents' kitchen in the house that I grew up in Plano, Texas. This is actually the last Christmas we're going to spend here. My parents are moving. It's kind of weird. It's kind of crazy. My little brother, Weston, is going to join me a little bit later. And we're just going to give it to Skip. We're going to go hard on him today. It's going to be relentless. We're going to make a lot of fun of him because the whole story arc of Skip and this whole football season is built to this, and we really get to nail him to a cross. Here we go. So, yeah, we will talk about the Cowboys, of course, lost, which means Skip is the real loser. How he built him up all season, and here we are, just as everyone thought. Plus, we'll talk about the Pats and Bills for just a second, and dive into a weird... someone reminded me that Skip Bayless was on a talk show with Kevin Hart, sponsored by Old Spice or something, and it gets real weird, and Kevin Hart hits him with some hard questions. It's hilarious. We're going to dissect that, as well as Ernestine, Skip's wife's latest appearance on his show. It's so weird and unsettling, and much more. So get ready. It's going to be really fun. As always, I got to say, thanks for helping me grow the podcast. Let's keep doing that. Take a second to rate, review, subscribe so we can keep blowing this thing up. Really appreciate all the support. You guys are the best. Thanks, 69ers. Also, I am going to try to keep it like some family stories and whatnot in this one. One story that stands out and has become kind of legendary from our childhood. My dad probably would not love that this is legendary, but at one point we were taking a road trip from South Texas to North Texas, and we had to make a stop, a little pit stop. We ate at a little diner outside of Austin, Texas, and my dad blew up the bathroom real bad, and we were trying to stay on somewhat of a schedule for this road trip, and he spent an hour on the toilet, although looking back was it really an hour or was it 10 minutes? I feel like the legend just continues to grow. Like it was an hour, 8 hours. My dad just destroyed this toilet. And I got to say, I would rather be that toilet that got just pummeled by my father than to be Skip Bayless for 5 minutes. I think we can all agree on that, right? Huh? All right. Time to bring in my guests. Here's my baby bro, Weston.
How's it going, everyone?
What up, dude? So, I always share a story up top, and thought I'd throw in a couple of our shared childhood stories. So, one that happened in this house. All the cousins on my mom's side were all hanging out. I don't think it was a holiday or anything. I can't remember. But, we'd always play games and stuff when they come over. And one such game was something that I came up with where we were doing hide and seek in the dark. But when you tag somebody, my idea, you had to tag them with a fake plastic knife. So we called it Daggers in the Dark. And what we found out in that game was that plastic knives can also actually stab you. My cousin Philip was the one that learned that, or we all learned it through him. I think my cousin Elizabeth tagged him right in the eye, blood everywhere, just just horrible screams throughout the house. The adults are like, what the fuck is going on? Yeah, we're all around Philip, his eyes bleeding, and I know I'm like slinking in the corner like, oh God, this is all going to come back to me, and my cousin is blind in one eye. And it turns out the cut was like just a little bit above, right?
Yeah, it was right above the right eye, I think. He still has a scar from it.
Oh my God, I didn't even know that.
Yeah, he has a scar from it.
Oh God, from this game Daggers in the Dark that
apparently plastic daggers are just as dangerous as regular knives.
Yes, for sure. So that is a lesson. If you got kids, you know, you can pass that on. Not that you wouldn't have the common sense to do that anyway. And then another like infamous story. Like, we still get shit for that. Like, or I get shit, I guess, about Daggers in the Dark. Like, good idea. People love to just talk trash to me about that. But another story that's actually a Christmas story. I believe it was Christmas Day, right?
Yeah.
Alice, Texas, growing up. We were doing Christmas in Alice and like South Texas, and it was like 80 degrees, I think, and
84.
Good Lord. And we played football. Like, it was warm enough to play football, and we're having like a good heated battle of the cousins. And at one point, our oldest cousin is like, again, another Philip story where he gets the brunt of it. Didn't realize that with these back-to-back stories. But he's like, hey, Philip, I got to play for you. And Philip eagerly comes over, excited to like help out in the game. And then my cousin grabs Philip. He's double the size and just puts his head under his ass and just belts out the loudest fart I've ever heard in my life. And it's weird that like still resonates, and like that's so memorable to this day. Like, and we still will say, Philip, I got to play for you. It's just become I don't know, legendary fart story in the family. Fart safaris run deep in this family. And you said you will.
Our dad one
busted.
time, he was holding both Philip's and my head underneath his ass.
Yeah.
And my dad walks in, and immediately he says, "Oh, hi, Uncle Mark,"
But he's
and
like
then
flat out
continues
busted.
to fart
Oh, he still
on
did
our
it?
heads. Yes, he still farted.
Oh man, maybe that's what opened the doors for where it's kind of we don't really hold back in this family.
No.
Half the time. It depends on, like, you kind of know which company you can do that in front of. All right, let's jump into the worst takes this past week. It's a doozy. Skip, look, I'm just going to say this right out of the gates. I am glad that I consistently didn't buy into this Cowboys team. I think, call me on it if you disagree, but I feel like from the get-go I said, great team on paper. I don't trust them. I never trusted Garrett from the get-go. I didn't trust Dak. And, I've been saying that all season, and here we are. I look smart and rational, and it proves I'm a better analyst than Skip Bayless, and I don't know what I'm doing. And I do much less research and I don't have a team, like he's in quotes a professional. He has a team of researchers, and he still said what he said, all the horrible things. So leading up to the game, we're going to recap before we get to what actually happened. I knew from the beginning that Dak's shoulder injury was the perfect excuse for him to hedge his bets. He always hedges his fucking bets.
Very famous for that.
Yes, and it drives me crazy. It always does. He does it probably multiple times a week. Per show.
It's always hedging his bets and no excuses for the other team if they lose.
But he has lots of excuses.
Yes.
And we'll have some of that here just in a second. But as soon as I heard Dak had a little injury, and, I'm not downplaying, but Shannon made the point, all football players at this point of the season are banged up. And but as soon as I heard he had that injury, I was like, well, there it is. Skip's got that. That's gold for him. And then exactly what you were just saying about like not wanting to hear excuses from the other team. He said, I don't want to hear any excuses for Carson Wentz. But then in the same breath said, my quarterback may not even be able to play. and my linebacker core is decimated. So he said, I don't want to hear any excuses for Carson Wentz, but here are 2 excuses for my team. Like, you can't have it both ways, you jackass. By the way, later in that same show, someone made it known that, like, I think Jenny Taft was like, oh yeah, Jerry Jones said his quarterback's fine. So, like, that was just shot down. He also said, and what do you think about this? He fears Josh McCown more than Carson Wentz. Yeah, I mean, I think the whole Will Kane and Skip Bayless all season said Dak is so much better than Wentz, and then what happened? I would much rather have Carson Wentz. I'm just going to say that. As the week went on, it just got worse and worse, where he said he's already handing it to the Eagles. He said with the Dak injury, it's just not meant to be for the Cowboys. So he's just already like giving up. He said the degree of difficulty keeps getting easier for the Eagles. That they have a ton of weapons, including Boston Scott, who I didn't really know who that was until the last couple of weeks. And that's laughable because what did you say? They were down like, what, 14 receivers?
Their top 3 receivers, their starting running back, and I think down an offensive lineman or 2.
Yeah.
And their defense was many defenders and giving up major yardage to just about every single other quarterback in the league.
Yeah, they were like, I think Case Keenum had 380 on him or almost 400. Like
Cousins too.
Yeah, I think Fitzpatrick maybe. There are a ton of quarterbacks that just shredded the Eagles all season. And, Dak played well the last time, but meanwhile, Wentz, I'll get to that a little bit later. But so he said, Shannon and the Eagles have him on the run. His quarterback may not play. He just kept playing that up. And then as the week went on, it sounded like Dak was dying. He basically, Skip was
even though they were Super Bowl contenders after the Rams.
Right. Yeah, after he had given up on the team, and then, oh, here it is. Yeah, you hear that? Yeah, that's right. That's my impression of Skip Bayless. Yeah, he was about them all season. Then he gave up on them. Then they beat the Rams. They're back to going to the Super Bowl, and now here we are. Now he's given up on them again, and then we'll see what if the Eagles lose next week. Then it's back to the Super Bowl, I'm sure.
Yeah.
So yeah, it gets to where Dak is dying. I think Dak has, this is his last game ever because he's for sure going to die in the game. Just keeps on hedging his bet. He talks about how he's, how can he win? He got injured early in that Rams game, but then he continued to stomp the Rams.
Yeah.
And he brags about them beating the Rams injured, but we can't beat like a decimated Eagles team injured.
Depleted team.
That doesn't make any sense, you jackass. And then he also said, I don't love my team for this game after saying they may go to the Super Bowl like earlier in that show. Last week, he even said they had a great chance of going to the Super Bowl. How do you go to the Super Bowl without going to the playoffs? They had to win that game. Well, they don't have to win the game. They can still back into the playoffs. What a great team. So we could be, what are we, 7-8 now?
Yeah, 7-8.
So we could be 8-8 and make it in the playoffs. And again, I think I talked about it last week, but I think you would agree as a fan, like, even though we could benefit still from this and we could make it in the playoffs, I would happily give that spot up to like the Vikings or whoever gets
completely.
The Rams, whoever gets like pushed out.
500 team in the playoffs.
Yeah, like it's not fair.
And plus, it's just not fair to anyone to have to listen to Skip brag about, possibly going to the Super Bowl again from an 8-8 team.
Right. Oh, and by the way, like we were talking about this, or you said it, I think this morning, that you're like me, that like, well, if they lose, at least we know, like you were saying,
Skip's going to be miserable,
yes.
and I get great enjoyment from that.
Yeah, or you even said, you were even farther than me, where you were like saying, you almost hate when they do win because
Yeah, then you have to listen to him brag.
Yeah. But this podcast kind of was you're part of the reason, like, because we would bitch about him quite a bit. So thanks, Wes. He also said if we were forced to run it 50 times, we would lose. So it's all Dak or nothing. By the way, I guess some mini viral thing happened between Jamie Foxx did an impression of Shannon Sharpe because they ran into each other. And Skip said, I guess Jamie Foxx is a huge Cowboys fan. Skip said that they may run into him. Shannon may run into him at the Super Bowl because the Cowboys may be there. So once again, back to they could be at the Super Bowl. This is before, of course, what took place. Now, let's catch you up to what he said after the game. He immediately, he looked, he was just screaming the entire time. And when he's screaming, that's when you know he really is, he knows that he's wrong. But obviously he doesn't admit it. But he, in quotes, said it was one long vomit ride. And then he said it took 9 years off his life.
Which we can all take great pleasure if that is true.
Yeah, we both just kind of snickered as soon as we heard that. It took 9 years off my life. Oh, boo-hoo. Everybody's so upset. Then just completely shifts it to calling for Jason Garrett's job, which to me is just shifting the whole narrative and not taking accountability. He never says anything about, I was wrong. He never,
he even got to the point where he was right, saying, I called for Jason Garrett's job after year one or something.
Wow, so he's saying after all this that, he's still saying he was right about
But
something.
even with Garrett, we were Super Bowl bound all year long.
Yeah, that was
now.
the thing. Garrett was there at the beginning of the season. He was a big problem.
Well, every year for the last 8 years
yeah,
or
9
so.
years, I think, almost
and
10.
We've been Super Bowl bound every year.
Yeah, pretty much. He always says we're going to the Super Bowl. And at the beginning of the year, I was saying, I don't know about Jason Garrett. He was there at the beginning of the season. I called it. So why did Skip not see that? He's been a steady part of the picture. So shut the fuck up. He also said Doug Peterson had his team more ready. He just did. Well, you also talk shit about Doug Peterson and how he even said, I think, that Garrett was a better coach at one point, which is laughable. That is insane. And, talk shit on that guy all year, now saying he got his team more ready. All right, so none of that checks out. And then, of course, the Dak injury, that was an excuse. I don't think Carson Wentz is 100% ever, so there's that. But, of course, it wasn't Dak's fault. I think he even said he was, courageous or something for playing through the injury.
And especially on one play where he lowered his shoulder.
Oh, yeah. I actually missed that, but what was it?
He was running the ball, just scrambling, and he lowered his shoulder.
Right. Oh, yeah. No, yeah, I do know what you're talking about. But, of course, it wasn't Dak's fault. It was all Zeke's fault. He said, you have to establish the run, even though he said if they run it 50 times, they'll lose.
And we didn't establish the run.
We
all
didn't.
Game.
I don't know how many total runs we had, but Zeke only had 13. You got to give it to him more than that. And he even went so far as to say Zeke is not a great player. Despite leading the NFL twice in rushing,
being fourth this year,
and then being fourth, and he probably would have led that third time if it weren't for the suspension.
Yeah.
So shut the fuck up, old man. And then made him a scapegoat because on that one, it was an important play, but he waved out, and he said that was the game, the play that Zeke waved out of. And he said, is that one play? Because every game, one play is what changes.
We put in a cold Tony Pollard, who he's been bragging about all year long.
Yeah,
for the most
and
part.
Even as of last week or 2 weeks, he's been pumping him up. Pollard's the lightning to Zeke's thunder or whatever. And then Pollard fumbled, and that was the end of our season. He said that fumble is what ruined everything. Which, it kind of started it, I guess. But like you're saying, he's been pumping up Pollard. So if you're saying this guy's so fucking good, shouldn't matter that Zeke's out because Pollard should be able to handle it. But I think, doesn't that just prove that Zeke is great? Like, that Zeke, and he's saying, yeah, like, we have to have Zeke in there. But then Zeke waved out. That none of that math checks out.
And on the play he waved out, his head hit the ground really hard.
Yeah, he got slammed in. And as you pointed out, in
slow
the
motion doesn't look bad, but in regular motion, Eagles player lands right on top of his head.
For all we know, he had a fucking concussion. But he said, and he's screaming, he didn't even go to the blue tent. That doesn't mean anything because players will still try to hide shit. So shut up. And, of course, another excuse, Cowboys are down 2 linebackers. But as you said, the Eagles are down everybody. Yeah. They have no one. So there's that. And then, of course, Amari wasn't in that final play. And so...
Yet he was complaining that he was dropping passes.
Yeah. So Amari
show.
can't play, but he has to be in there to play. Which is it? Do you need him? And then he went so far as to say... that the Cowboys, he used to say that the Cowboys fleeced the Raiders, but now he thinks John Gruden fleeced the Cowboys. So he's just given up on Amari, I guess. He keeps saying Dak is all we have. And I think Dak is, I would put Zeke, Amari, then Dak. Other players before Dak even. Good Lord. I still think Amari's injured. Something's not right. Like, none of that makes sense. Amari's like... such a good player, and he keeps his mouth shut. Why would you not want that guy on your team? And Dak was garbage until he came into our lives middle of last season. And again, like, he's been bragging on him for a year. Yeah. And then now he's garbage. He's a piece of shit. There's just that's too weird of a thing to, like, Amari was great, and now, like, there's clearly something wrong. Something's off. And then at one point during the show, we were cracking up. He said, he tells Shannon and Jenny, watch this throw. This is his best throw of the game. It's a throw where Randall Cobb had to dive to catch the ball. Yeah. That's your best throw? You have to jump 3 feet.
And then another clip. Watch all these. What did he say?
All the drop passes.
Yeah, all the drop
passes. Like a montage.
Yeah, and it was like one drop pass. I think it was
they just showed it over and over again.
Yeah, one play over and over
and they did have, like, other drops, but some of those were
high,
or a little behind.
Diving.
Yeah. And, I mean, a lot of those, like, you should catch, but you can throw it a little bit more. Man, he was throwing balls at people's feet.
I mean, the ball in the end zone wasn't the last play if he just would have let him a little bit more.
Yeah, it was right at the defender. Like,
if he would have let him, it would have been a touchdown.
Or outside shoulder, yeah.
Yeah.
Once again, wouldn't give it to Carson Wentz, who he's shit on all season. He gave more props to Dak. He flat out said Wentz did not outplay Dak, even though Skip's favorite statistic is QBR.
Yeah.
Carson Wentz had a 61, and he said he had a mediocre 61. Well, Dak Prescott had a 35. So if 61, if double that is mediocre, then Dak is dog shit, I guess. So
and our only scores.
Oh yeah. So he had all those guys all season, Case Keenum and et cetera, 400 yards ish. Dak had 265, 0 touchdowns. Cool. So I'm just excited because this whole season led to this. He has built them up for so long, and it collapsed. I think everybody kind of saw this slow train wreck coming. Congrats to the Eagles fans listening and the Eagles fans that we've had on the show. You did it. You guys should have won. And by the way, so again, Skip went from loving them as a Super Bowl contender to giving up on them to they beat the Rams. He's back to the Super Bowl. They lose. Now he's saying we can't even beat the Redskins next week.
Yeah.
Haskins
is out for the season.
Yeah, he's done.
He's done.
So, oh man, can you imagine living like
said, Washington hates the Cowboys more than the Eagles hate the Cowboys, and that's why.
Oh, God, just already, yeah. He's got to pump up that amazing Washington team that's just been dominating all season. Little random side note, but we just heard this in the car as we went to get some Mexican food. But Will Kane was very upset about the loss as well, and when they were asking about, like, they were saying, well, you're probably glad because, this is what Skip was saying too, like, at least, if anything, this is the end of the Jason Garrett era, and they were asking him about that situation, and he said everybody has Jerry Jones wrong, and that he doesn't hire yes men.
Spoken like a true yes man.
Yeah, he said he hired Jimmy Johnson. Well, yeah, he hired Jimmy Johnson, who wasn't a yes man, but that was the problem, and that's been the problem since 1995 or whatever.
Yeah.
That, like,
they
he doesn't want
Parcells at one time.
They did hire, and then that didn't go as planned, and
we hire one good coach every 10 years, 12, and then ride the coattails off of that coach's draft picks for a long time.
Yeah, and I think, like, didn't Colin Cowherd actually had a good point about that we're just hiring all people within the organization, like
our basically everyone except for our defensive back coach.
Oh yeah,
defensive backs coach is ex-Cowboy.
Yeah, so it's like just hiring all buddies. Buddies don't always equate to wins. So actually listen to Colin Cowherd on that one.
Yeah,
let's get somebody. Let's get an outsider. Quick note on the Bills and Pats. Not going to go too much into that. I was really bummed that the Pats won. That was not the funnest. Was really hoping the Bills would upset them, and it was they put up a fight. It was good, but Skip also hedged his bet on that. He said he can't justify picking the Pats. That, like, everything is going against them. He's just perfectly hedging his bet, but he did pick the Pats, of course, and they did win. They squeaked it out. But he said the Bills will easily get their 150 rushing yards. They got 92. He also said N'Keal Harry would be the X factor. N'Keal Harry had 2 catches for 18 yards. He's been building up him for the last several weeks after shitting all over him. Another quick note. I haven't been bringing up the NBA stuff too much lately, but and I've talked about this before, but it's so slick that it's now he talks shit on Kawhi for a fucking year or more, and now it's just commonplace. It's like he's right back into, like, pumping him up versus LeBron.
Yeah.
And it's just like,
last year he is a baby not for playing. This year, load management genius.
Yeah. He's just completely flipped on everything. And it's just so weird that, completely hated. I mean, said the worst things about that guy.
Wouldn't call him by name.
Called him number 2.
Yeah.
And now he's just like right back. It's just normal for him. Just like, yeah, he's the best. He's a great player. Like, ugh. He's just such a fucking piece of slime. Now, I made you watch most of this Kevin Hart interview he did. I forgot what it's actually called, like Cold Ones or something.
Some
cold balls. I don't know.
Cold as
weird.
ball.
Cold as balls or something.
Something like that.
Where Kevin Hart would have people get in a tub of ice like athletes do after, when they're sore or whatever after a game, and he interviews them. The whole point is to try to, like, keep them on their toes because, you're a little antsy if you're frozen like that. But he had Skip Bayless come on, and Kevin Hart honestly got the most honest, kind of crazy, like, hit him with hard hitting journalism.
Yeah, and
he kind of ripped him apart,
yeah.
Like put him on blast and made him look pretty fucking dumb. I wonder what Skip actually thinks about that interview.
At the end, he sounded pretty mad, actually.
Yeah, a little bit. But it starts out, he asks him why he got into this whole thing, and Skip admits it's crazy. This proves a lot of my theories. He said that he was a frustrated high school athlete. That's why he got into journalism. So it's basically like he couldn't make it as an athlete, so he started turning to journalism. He had like a teacher or something that had him write a paper, and she really liked it, and that's what kind of put him on the path to journalism.
Now we know who to blame for Skip Bayless in our lives.
Yeah, whichever shitty teacher this was. And he even said that, get this, he ripped his own baseball coach in a column in his school paper while he was on the team.
I thought that was basketball coach.
No, that was his baseball coach. But doesn't that only make sense? And he probably got benched or something because he was terrible, and then that's why he ripped on his coach. I also couldn't help but notice, but he doesn't look Kevin Hart in the eyes in the whole thing, which made me feel like he was just really insecure and like, on his show, he's the man and he's a big man, but couldn't look Kevin Hart in the eyes when he was asking him real questions. He elaborated on the sports thing. He said he failed at this is so good. He said that he failed at sports, so he knows what it takes to be a great athlete.
And who did he say was the worst GM?
Well, yeah, I'm getting to it. Okay. So he said he failed at sports, so he knows what it takes. If you don't have what it takes, how do you know what it is?
Yeah.
Like, that doesn't make any sense. By definition, shouldn't Shannon Sharpe know a lot more? If he does have what it takes and he's a Hall of Famer, that means he knows so much more? Like, that doesn't make any sense. But yeah, like what
I think he's basically saying Shannon Sharpe has no idea what he's talking about.
Pretty
because
much.
he is a Hall of Famer.
That all checks out.
Yeah. Great facts.
He said that, he started standing up. You were getting to this. He started standing up for people that didn't play sports. He goes, as an example, he says, look at the worst GM in all of sports. Who is that? Kevin Hart's thinking, and then Skip just gives him the answer. He says, Michael Jordan. He's the worst GM in all sports. He said that the better you are at sports, the worse you are at evaluating talent. So Michael Jordan doesn't know anything about sports because he's a bad GM. That's confusing. Meanwhile, he says Jeffrey Lurie is a great evaluator of talent, and he didn't play a lick of sports. So... yeah, that makes sense. Jeffrey Lurie knows more about sports than Michael Jordan, who is, by the way, Skip's favorite player of any sport ever, and he's shitting on him here. And look, he's not a great GM. We all know that. But as you pointed out, he's also in a horrible market.
Well,
so he's never going to
also, if, worse you are at sports, wouldn't Jerry Jones be a genius GM?
Right.
He played for Arkansas in college?
Yeah, he played a little bit. And by the way, like, you're a great evaluator of talent and you still love Johnny Manziel. All right. At one point he gets frustrated. He's arguing with Kevin Hart and he says, I'll race you right now. 3-6 9-mile race. I just love that. Like, when he gets really frustrated, he does that with Shannon Sharpe all the time. Like, let's go run a marathon. And it's like, he knows he can't win in a sprint. And I doubt that he would win in a fucking any of those races either. I think he probably thinks he's a lot faster than he actually is. I would love to watch that race. Good Lord, that'd be fantastic. Kevin Hart asked him about his high school playing career, where he gets a lot of shit. And to Skip's credit, because he has been busted before, he said that he only averaged 1.4 points a game. So
1.2, or was it 1.4?
No, 1.4.
Okay.
And he said...
it was actually, 15 games, 22 points.
Yeah, because he had lied before and said he was much better than he is. But he said that's because the coach didn't like his style.
He actually referred to himself at one point as young Pete Maravich.
Oh, my God. Yeah, right. And then he said he was from OKC. And he's like, you can laugh at that, but Blake Griffin's from there. What does Blake Griffin have to do with you? You already said you average 1.4 points per game. And then he said that he went to a basketball camp and he was MVP. You can look it up in the paper. And by the way, you cannot look it up in the paper. It is nowhere.
If you look it up on the internet, there's actually an article that says that the Oklahoma paper he claims is in, looked through their entire archives and could find no record of it. They're on record saying that.
Yeah.
So,
my God. So he's just lying again. And he said he'd play Kevin Hart one-on-one. Again, would love to see
basketball, yeah.
He would just be dribbling right around him. I'd love to see Kevin Hart, who's tiny, just stuff the shit out of Skip Bayless.
I think he's used to being stuffed.
Yeah. And he said, and this proves another one of my theories right, and I guess we were kind of talking about this earlier, but there's a lot of anger from Skip's athletic past, and he takes it out on athletes now, which is exactly, that's what I've been saying the whole podcast. Man, hitting him with hard-hitting questions. I love it. Way to go, Kevin Hart. And then at the end, he said, nobody, what's it like with nobody liking you, basically? He was like, they say, fuck Skip. He was like, I'm the only guy that likes you. And then he defends that by saying he's a truth teller. He couldn't live with himself or look himself in the mirror if he didn't tell the truth. And then he, which all, of course, is complete bullshit.
Yeah, there's a whole website that you can fact check all the lies and embellishments he does about sports.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Yeah, I have it on my computer.
Oh, hell yeah. Let's check it out later. We're going to use that a lot.
It shows videos of him embellishing and all the facts backing it up.
Wow.
Stuff from his yearbook he lied about, and then what it actually says in the yearbook.
I got to get involved with them. But right after he says all that, then he can't live himself, if he weren't telling the truth, which of course is all lies. So he just lied in his part about telling the truth.
Whole website dedicated to it.
He changes the subject to LeBron James being terrible. So be sure to check that out. Just Google Kevin Hart, Skip Bayless. You'll find it. It's pretty hard to watch, actually. But and you have to see Skip shirtless in a tub, so that's not fun. And at the end, I forgot. Skip Bayless throws it on him. He's like, "Let me ask you a couple of questions. He's like, you're good at this. Why can't you should do sports debating?" And Kevin Hart says, I don't want to do that till I'm old like you, and I can't move, and I'm just forced to be at a desk. I don't think Skip liked that at all.
No, that's when he actually excused himself from the show afterwards.
Right. And I can only imagine that he probably told the producers to take that out.
Yeah.
Because he doesn't like to, I think he thinks he's immortal.
Well, yeah, because at the beginning of the show, he said, the man, the myth, the legend. He said, not myth, just legend.
Yeah, Skip said that about himself. That's fantastic. You're 68. Good Lord, let it go. That ego is exhausting.
Well, at least the Cowboys game took 9 years off his life.
Yeah. So soon? I don't want him to die. That's horrible. Just want him to not have fun a lot, which he isn't, I don't think. So his wife was on the show once again. Ernestine joined Skip on Undisputed and gave us more insight to what their weird marriage is. And it doesn't sound fun. And, they have some laughs about it. But, it was great. As soon as it started, Shannon pointed out that he was like, Skip, you should be ashamed. Like, you didn't even...
hug your wife.
Yeah, hug your wife before the segment because he thought it would, like, jinx him or something.
Yeah.
And then, what did you say? Like, wouldn't...
Pull out the chair and even said, And each time she's been on, or at least the first time she was on, he's like, I'm probably going to lose this debate now because she's on.
And I think he said it would like jinx them if he hugged her before. He said he'd hug her after. She immediately said that living with Skip this year, it's all to plug her book, which is just a big cry for help once again. How to live with your sports obsessed guy.
Which I've heard is a very short read.
Yeah, I've given you some of that. She said living with Skip this year has been absolute hell because of the Cowboy season. Skip said that he's been trying to do all sorts of things to unjinx them. He even tried holding Hazel, their dog, while standing up. A grown man saying that he just held their dog while standing up, and that worked for a while. And I think like when he said like, I found this thing, I'd hold my dog and they started winning. I think he almost wanted to like take credit. Like, like I think he really thinks it has some sort of effect. And then he said he later gave up on Hazel, the dog. Like that didn't work anymore. Again, he's a grown man. He's 68. He could have great grandchildren. He also said, Ernestine, excuse me, said that if she comes home and Hazel doesn't greet her, she knows she's in for a bad time.
Yeah.
Which is
horrific. Every day when you wake up next to Skip.
Yeah. But can you just imagine like living in that? Like, what does she get out of this? I don't understand. Then Skip said that he has 3 different hats, jerseys, and shirts, and he tries all these different combinations of all those. Which, first of all, it sounds like I thought he had like 1 million of each. Doesn't sound like much of a fan of me. No. But he keeps trying all the different combinations of these shirts and jerseys and hats to see which one is the winning combination to get these Cowboys on track, as if this has anything to do with the Cowboys' actual season.
Well, you know the reason he only has 3 is because he throws the rest away.
Oh, right. Yeah, all the time. He did say that he tried one particular combination of his jersey, hat, shirt, and against the Rams, and he thinks it works, but he wouldn't reveal it publicly. This is before the Eagles game. Grown man, just going to keep saying that. Grown man saying this. And on game day, Ernestine says a lot of times she just leaves the house because she doesn't want to like be around that. I don't blame her. I think that's the healthy thing for her to do in that situation. She said if she does come home, she makes no noise. That sounds healthy, you know? And that she watches her TV in her office, and oftentimes she'll find the dog is shaking. So maybe we can report that to the what's the dog?
Hazel.
Yeah, Hazel, or report it to like the what's the organization that takes care of PETA or something? See if we can get Skip in trouble for like dog abuse. Then he said, Ernestine also said when the Cowboys win, she'll congratulate him, but oftentimes she'll be like when she does that, he'll yell at her, "I'm tweeting."
Oh my God, I didn't hear that.
Yeah, like a grown.
That is terrible.
A grown ass man. She's even so she can't win. Like they win, she's like thinks he's gonna be in a good mood, and he'll cut her off because he's tweeting. Like, what's more important in this scenario? You piece of shit. You are just straight garbage. Again, what does she get out of this? And she asked him like about all these jinxing and combos of shirts. You think that shirt will affect a game at Soldier Field? And he had a resounding yes, I do. One time she said that she brought him dinner and the Cowboys were doing well once she came into the room with dinner. So she's like still like doing nice things for him. And so he made her stand there, and he tried to make her stand there for the rest of the game. But she was like, I have a life, which made me laugh because that implies that he does not.
Yeah.
Which we all know is true. She also said she still likes Kawhi, liked him through even when Skip was hating him, but couldn't talk about it. But now she can again. That's also sad. She like can't fully share any kind of feelings. And like she got into sports for him, and then oh man, what a fucking mess. Why do you not run? Just get a divorce. Get out of there. There's plenty of other fish in the sea. Come on. So yeah, that's all sad. Yeah. That's all tragic.
I'm at a loss for words, truly, for that entire segment.
Yeah, he yells at her because he's tweeting. That's ridiculous. Oh my God. Is it really that important? God, that guy really needs to look himself in the mirror.
Well, he can't because he's always lying.
Yeah, all right, yeah, according to his logic earlier. Also, of course, there was a viral video of him. A lot of people were making fun of this. He threw Zeke's jersey away again after he pulled it out of the trash a few weeks. He threw it away, pulled it out of the trash, threw it back in the trash. I don't even know what to say. One, a lot of people have been pointing out, I don't know if you saw this, but the microwave is just above the trash can, which is just a couple feet off the ground. So a lot of people are like, what the fuck is your microwave like below your knees for? Like, that didn't make any sense. Like, does their dog have a microwave? I don't understand.
No, I didn't catch that.
Yeah, it's like yay high. It's like, the trash can's a couple feet off the ground.
I just felt sorry for Ernestine having to record a grown man throwing away a jersey and a Cowboys hat.
Yep, and he probably had to take several takes, so it probably wasn't just one take. And it's not
over
done
dramatic.
well. Yeah, it's over dramatic. It's so bad. Will you record my videos? Will you? That's like stuff we would do as kids with mom. Like, hey, mom, can you watch us? Can you do this? Like, can you film us? But he's 68. But
we wouldn't have our mom record us throwing a hissy fit or anything like that.
Yeah, I guess you're right.
It would be something,
to try to make us look cool.
Yeah.
Which he also does that, where he like gets her to take shirtless pictures of him on his Instagram and stuff. So there's that.
He also does that in the mirror himself with selfies.
Probably. Let's see if he's got any new shit on Instagram Nope, just the last post was the Zeke post. He's probably in a depression hole.
I was expecting halfway a shirtless pic, but
she does say in the book that he goes into like wells of depression after like a loss like this. Also, quick note, couldn't help but as we watched it earlier, the show, couldn't help but say that he wears that Skip Bayless necklace every day now. And I just got to say, he looks so fucking stupid in that necklace. It makes me angry. It also just immediately discredits anything that comes out of his mouth. And when he's putting it on in the morning, he's like, oh, damn, you're the man. You look cool. And I've said it, like, I don't think Lil Wayne does the song for them.
Yeah.
He got them the thing. It's probably a contractual thing because he did the song that he can have so many appearances. So this is just a gift to like, hey, thanks for getting me on the show. Like, he gets something out of it. I think Skip really thinks they're best friends. I doubt Lil Wayne really is like, yeah, that guy.
I don't think he gives two shits about him.
Yeah. Do you really think Lil Wayne's like, man, Skip's a cool guy. Look at that cool guy. God, it's so distracting now. Like, that's all I can focus on is his stupid fucking necklace.
Or as he calls it, his drip.
Yep. What a cool guy. We can all aspire to be him, huh? By the way, how many times per show do you think Shannon thinks about punching him right in the face?
I turn on the TV and I think about I want to punch him in the face.
Can you imagine being
Shannon.
like that close to him and hearing that shit when you're a Hall of Fame athlete?
And the entire time you're talking, he's going,
yeah,
and then interrupting him all the time. And then when Shannon tries to bring up one thing, you can't talk. You've already had your piece.
This one after the Eagles game was the closest to where I think Shannon actually might do it.
Yeah, it was really bad.
Because like Skip was leaning over and screaming, and then Shannon started leaning, and never seen him point like he was pointing. Thought some swings might come out. All right, time for my favorite part of the podcast, where we start a new rumor about Skip Bayless every week. It's always a good time. Do you want me to go first, or you want to?
I'll go first. I'll explain why he kicks out the dog and the dog is shaking.
Oh, yeah. Why is that?
He's the reason they actually had to make a law, saying that bestiality should be illegal, that it is illegal.
Oh, he's the reason you can't fuck dogs, basically?
Well, animals in general.
Animals in general. So he's done it with multiple animals?
Yes.
Yeah, like other pets that he was having sex with?
Yes.
Gotcha.
I mean, why do you think the dog was shaking when Ernestine got home outside the room?
Yeah, because he's in his little man cave. He calls it his man cave.
Yeah.
It's just him and his dog.
And then he kicks out the dog shamelessly.
Yeah, and any pictures of him with the dog, that dog does not look happy.
And the dog's name is Hazel.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a very, yeah.
Female dog named Hazel.
Be funny if it was Tom Brady or something. Yeah, I could see that. And but there you go. I guess that's why you can't have intercourse with animals. It's all because of Skip Bayless. Mine less sexual. Sometimes it is sexual. But mine we watched Star Wars, Wes and our older brother. The three of us, we finished the whole saga. We're moving out of this house. My parents are moving out of this house that we grew up in. It was weird to see the Star Wars movie that same, holiday, like over the holidays. We just got back a couple hours ago. I won't give any spoilers, but I will say I leaned into Wes towards the end when the Emperor is like on the screen, and I was like, he reminds me of Jerry Jones. I think. Anyway, so based on riffing off the Star Wars theme, I found this out about Skip Bayless. I did not know this. He's not credited. He ghost wrote it, but he ghost wrote Phantom Menace. And the reason he did it was because he said he wanted to ruin everyone else's childhood because he didn't really have one. So there you go. That's a real thing. It's not even a rumor, as usual. Responsible for Jar Jar, all that shit. Well, hey, dude. Thanks for coming on, Wes. Thanks for being
anytime.
on. It was fun. And thanks for continuing to send me obscure, weird shit about Skip Bayless. And we'll have to check out the website as soon as we're off here.
It's a gem. It shows videos. It shows articles he wrote. And then it shows Then it shows the facts behind the actual embellishment or complete lie.
Fantastic. Can't fucking wait. I'm going to look these people up and contact them.
All you have to do is just type in Skip Bayless, Oklahoma City paper MVP, and it pulls it right up.
Perfect. As always, rate, review, subscribe. Once again, on my website, dougmellard.com. You can find Burrito for President 2020 shirts for men and women, women's tank tops. People are loving those. Thanks for the people that sent in pictures of you sporting yours. They're looking good. You guys are looking sharp. And also you can get Fart Safari t-shirts on there as well. Hey guys, happy holidays. Congrats again to the Eagles fans out there and even the Patriots fans. It's the holidays.
Yeah.
I'll even do that. I'll even say Merry Christmas to Skip Bayless. I'm joking. You're not getting a fun Christmas. The Cowboys suck. Well, man, see? Like, we're Cowboys fans, and I'm, like, rubbing it. They lost. Like, that's how much I hate them. Oh, my God. It's deep. My hatred runs deep with him. Well, hey, thanks for listening, guys. Until next week, thanks again, Wes.
Yeah.
Talk to you guys soon. Peace.